Hey guys, it's Falnave here. Welcome to the channel. I've been kind of absent on all my social media stuff because, well, I've been trying to focus on this and I don't really share much of this. But I'm sharing it today because, I thought it would be fun. Also, it might inspire me. I might be able to get some insight from other people that might see this. And other people seeing it and maybe enjoying it might be, a big motivator for me. So, without further ado, I guess let's jump into this. So, this is Brave or Save. It's a TTRPG, a tabletop role-playing game that I've been working on since late 2019, basically. The concept in its infancy was sort of there. I wanted this hyper customizable character creation thing. And then, later it evolved to like, I want something that's going to really just serve my needs as a GM, right? So this is sort of me being inspired by D&D 5e, Dungeon World, huge inspiration, and Runehammer philosophies. Now, Runehammer has ICRPG, Index Card RPG. He's got a couple other things out there as well. He's super inspirational. The guy always gets me motivated whenever I hear him. It's insane. I don't know where he gets this motivation. I very much struggle with that stuff. I love his stuff. I love his philosophy about D&D, about gaming. I think it's great. Definitely go check Runehammer out if you haven't heard of him. Hanker Infernale on Instagram, maybe other socials. I don't follow him anywhere else. And he has a Patreon. You can throw him $1 and check out a bunch of his stuff. It's awesome. With that stuff aside, with my credits, my inspirations aside, I guess we'll get into the system. So Brave or Save is the name that I have right now. It's been that name since the beginning, but I've had mixed reviews on it. The concept was brave against danger or save yourself from it. Danger being a big element of the game. But I've heard it's kind of janky. It doesn't really make sense. It's and I also really like how, brave or save, it kind of rhymes. It has flows off the tongue very well, I believe. But I've had mixed reviews. So I have a couple names here. Maybe you want to check them out. Maybe you have some other names. After you see this, you get inspired by sort of the core philosophies of the game. All right, so we'll get into the core of the game. I'm gonna go through this quicker than I did last time. I just did an hour recording, and I'm like, that's way too slow, way too long. I need to get through this quicker. So let's just let's get into the basics, right? We're gonna ignore game flow. I'm still working on that. That's more of just like a concept, kind of heady stuff. But anyways, the biggest thing you need to know is this game is a 2d6 dice system, dice action system. Oops. Very similar to Dungeon World, if you're familiar with Dungeon World at all. Kind of just ripped it right on out of there. I just really love this tiered event sort of system, or results are a better word for that. This tiered result system. 2 to 6 to fail. Anytime you fail, you get 1 XP. Doesn't matter how or when or whatever. You always get 1 XP when you fail a roll. Also from Dungeon World. A 7 to 9, you succeed, but there are consequences. It depends on the situation, but generally it's going to be something that kind of bites you in the butt later or immediately right now. And then 10 plus, you will always succeed your roll. And I love that tiered result system, but I also love that everyone knows what the target number is at all times. Everyone knows I got to roll at least a 7 in order to get through this situation. I'm really aiming for that 10 so I don't have to deal with any consequences. Everyone knows that's the number I need to hit. And that's something quite valuable, I think, in the game. It speeds things up. There's much less confusion. It's just a good thing all around. And just like any other TTRPG, you've got your bonuses. We've got an optional critical role rule. We've got coin flips. This comes from the Runehammer philosophy. You know, anything you don't know, the GM or players alike can say, oh, I don't know if this thing is true or if this is a yes or no. So I'm going to flip a coin. Heads yes, tails no. And just answer your question that way. Just beware, make sure that you're okay with a coin deciding the fate of the question, right? Obviously. And timers, that is another thing I'm pulling from Runehammer. I really like the concept of that. That's been around for a while. Timers was one of the first things. Like, I think I was 4, maybe 5 sessions into my first campaign ever back in like 2016 or something like that. Never experienced D&D really ever. I played one game at a shop, a game shop, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do this myself. I'm gonna find some people and do it. And I ran into Hank Renfernale, Runehammer's videos back then. He went by Drunkens and Dragons back then. And he's remained to be my favorite D&D spokesperson. I guess you could call him a YouTuber. I suppose he's a YouTuber. I guess. Yeah, but this is a concept that comes straight from him. He has it in his ICRPG game, of which I'm not super familiar with. I've just heard him talk about it here and there during his Friday live streams. I haven't fully looked into it. I do really want to look into it, get some inspiration from it. But I do like the idea of timers. Now, timers are always going to be a D4, and it's going to count down the rounds until a thing happens. And when that thing happens, it's going to be bad news. It adds a level of tension to the game. It makes players have players are like, we need to do this. We need to get this stuff out of the way before that whatever is going to happen happens. It puts some pep in their step. And we have a little bit different of a stat system here. Before we can take a look at my old character sheet here. You can see I had body, mind, and magic. Those were the 3 stats I had. I was pretty adamant about that for a long time. And I ran this campaign, the Fog campaign, as you can see. I made this just for that. I also, Braver Save. I was planning on probably using this for Braver Save, but things have changed quite drastically, I would say, actually. But I felt this was just too flat. It made the best example I could give is, your rogue has +3 to any strength, just like your big strength guy has +3 on any agility-based things. So it felt really flat. It didn't feel like it personalized characters that way too well. So Matt Colville was right. 3 is probably too few stats. I can't remember what video he said that in, but he did mention that. So yeah, I settled on breaking them into 2 stats, mind and body into 2 stats, and keeping magic, because magic as a stat was very important to me. That is a core part of the game, in my opinion. But you have your strength, your agility, your intelligence, and your charisma, and your magic. And the caveat with magic is you have to explain where you get your magic. Magic is woven through the fabric of the world, of reality. Every person has access to magic. Well, has the potential to access magic. But only those who are born with themselves attuned to the fabric of magic, or those who study or train with masters of magic or study books like extensively, can learn to wield magic, right? So it's a pretty serious endeavor to be someone who uses magic. Now that being said, that doesn't mean magic is uncommon. I would say it's uncommon amongst the population of people, but in the world, magic is flourishing. So people aren't unfamiliar with magic generally, depending on your setting, of course. And you've got your actions laid out here. I'm still working on this a bit, but all you need to know is you got your advantage and disadvantage from 5e. Fantastic, cream of the crop design. I gotta say, love it. Never gonna get rid of it. It's super useful, and everyone understands when you say it. Once they understand, of course. Now, this is a thing I'm working on, but morale dice are going to be dice that you can give to everyone. If you can produce a morale dice, you can throw it on the table and direct it towards one person, or say the whole group can have access to that morale dice to add to the roll at any point in the game. Skills and special skills, very important to the game. So skills are kind of like passive things you would have. So say you have let's say you have an agility-based skill. I don't have a name for it now. Actually, let's go check it out. What do I have here? Nimble. Let's say you have the nimble skill, right? When you have the nimble skill, you add nimble plus your agility to any roll, right? So skills are more they're like passive abilities. So if you have nimble, it'll give you +1 or +2, whatever level the nimble is. It'll give you a bonus to your agility rolls, right? So skills act very passively. I think I'm going to have a couple skills that are more actively used. Like magic is kind of more of an actively used skill. But generally, skills are sort of things that passively help you during the game. And special skills are limited use skills that you can use per session. Now, the amount of uses is going to depend on the level, the type of skill it is. There's a lot of factors, but the game focuses on heavily on custom character creation. That was very important to me, and so that has stayed throughout. But yeah, special skills are going to be limited actions, usually quite powerful, and they also happen automatically. They automatically succeed. You don't have to roll for them. But it may, in return, trigger a GM action. Now, the GM will respond to the thing you're doing. It could be good. It could be bad. It could be quite neutral. It just gives the GM the option to act. Generally, it's just going to provoke another creature to attack you back. In creature-based dangerous scenarios. Then we have items and loadouts. So all you need to know is, back here you were limited to literally having 3 items, 3 weapons. Now you can have any items you want, you can carry, you just throw it into your backpack, but your loadout would be your 3 weapons of choice and your 3 equipment of choice, right? Your loadout is available to you in dangerous scenarios. You can wield them as you wish. There's no action required. You can pull them from your belt or wherever on your person and wield them, use them, pass them away, throw them, whatever it is, without any extra cost. But if they sit in your backpack, let's say all your backpack items are written down here, you would have to use an action within combat, or what I'm dubbing danger. And you'd have to use an action to pull that out and to then wield, right? So your loadout is quite important because danger lurks around every corner of this game. And that goes into detail here. You can pause and look at that if you want to. Health works the same as D&D or really any other video game. Armor, you can have 1, 2, or 3 armor. There's many different types of armor, but generally they end up in the category of light armor, medium armor, or heavy armor. Shields are also a type of armor, but they take a weapon space as opposed to an equipment space, which armor would take up. It's important to know that armor subtracts damage from an incoming attack, right? So if an attack was to deal 3 damage to you, say a goblin comes in with a dagger, comes up from behind you and tries to stab you with a dagger, it deals 3 damage. Well, if you had heavy armor on, it's not going to pierce your armor at all. If you have medium armor, that 3 damage, 1 of that damage is going to sneak through, right? And if you had light armor, 2 of that damage would sneak through. So, 3 minus 1, 3 minus your armor, your damage minus your armor score, right? And of course, if you're going to be wielding armor, you have disadvantages based on whether you're a spellcaster or a sneaker type. Heavily revising this here. I did something this morning. We'll go over that a little bit later. But just know that danger lurks everywhere. And when danger is declared, you enter like combat mode, right? You enter, time slows down and each character gets 1 action and we count rounds, right? And when you're in the world, but in a safe place, such as a settlement, that's going to be the most common place. When you're in safe zones, or in safety, as I'm calling it now, you can fully rest, as opposed to if you're on the road, you can only heal halfway because danger lurks around all corners, and it has you worried for the danger that may strike. That is the narrative explanation. And there's a mechanical effect to that as well. So you have to be very careful while you're out in the world. It will literally come and get you. You got saves. At any point in time, a save against danger could occur. And then you have death. The biggest thing about death to note is that you don't have 3 death saves. You just have 1 death save. And there's various ways to stabilize you. You got powerful spells, skills, and medical equipment that can help stabilize a character. But death is supposed to have this impact. Imagine yourself in a dangerous scenario. Each character gets 1 action per round, right? Say there's 3 characters. You go down. Now 2 characters can either let you go down, or they're worried for you and they're like, we can't deal with the danger right now. We have to save our friend, right? And so that puts them in a tough spot. Do they have a way to help you? I mean, they can all roll to help you, but have no bonuses, right? But if they have something, they have some kind of potion, they have a spell that could revive you. These change the conditions of the situation. And I want death to be very impactful. Falling to 0 is... you want to avoid that at all costs. Whereas in D&D, it's like, you want to avoid it, but it's like, we got the healer guy. He's going to heal you up. You're going to wake up and everything. Here, you fall to 0. You're not going to wake up unless you roll a 10 or higher on your death save or the save to revive you. Actually, maybe I might even make it so the save can only wake up conscious if you succeed a death save. That would be fucking gnarly. I don't know. I might do that. I might do that. I might not do that. All right, principles and goals. They're there to just sort of guide you. They're going to help you, and they give you XP as well. But they're there to guide the player in how they want to navigate the world through role play and various actions they might take. Willpower is similar to inspiration in 5e. Except instead of giving you an extra roll, you just sort of succeed the declared action, right? So you can do that after or before rolling. It doesn't really matter. And then we have burdens and boons. I think that's pretty straightforward. You can see we got like condition type burdens, and then we're gonna have like sicknesses or blights and curses. As burdens, and then boons are going to be like blessings and enchantments and things like that. And I'll probably have a table for that soon. Ignore that. Yeah, and so we have here combat. You have your or danger, as we're now calling it. Loadouts in danger, so you're only able to use your loadout while in danger. You have improvised weapons. We got timers written out here again. Multiple attackers. Yeah, you take an extra 1 HP, extra 1 damage for each character around you. Now, if you're wearing armor, that's probably not a big deal, right? Because it's not going to be a full amount. It's going to be 1 little chip damage for each thing, right? So you want to send your armored people up in those areas. And then we describe range here. And these are the 4 basic ranges. These are just rough estimates, just use your best judgment. If they're nearby, you can't use a melee attack, but you could charge up and then use a melee attack, right? At range, you probably can't just run up and attack them. You're probably going to have to sort of dodge whatever if they're shooting projectiles at you. You're going to have to take your time running up to get them with a melee weapon. And then very far is going to be, reserved for special scenarios or just describing things and how far they are. And then we have gaining XP. You've got multiple ways, but each one, with the exception of failed rolls, 1 through 5, you can only get +1 XP per type of XP gain per session, right? So if you complete multiple goals, you only get +1 XP. If you uphold your principle multiple times, you only get +1 XP. That's just to keep the numbers low, but also to put an emphasis on each session. Each session is more like, I guess there could be some sessions where you complete multiple goals, but it's to put an emphasis of like, did we do a bunch of like cool, noteworthy stuff during a session, and then you sort of check mark it, right? But yeah, you have, did you complete a goal? Did you uphold a principle? Did you overcome a notable scenario? That's generally going to be like a boss monster or narrative-based scenario, or something that is quite traumatic or like extreme. So like a tornado rips through a town or something like that, and you survive that. That's a pretty notable scenario, I'd say. And then, did you learn something about the world? That's learning things that you need to know about quests. That's learning like the politics of the situations, learning history. It's learning about special paths through the world and things like that, right? And then looting treasure, that's always fun. If you loot some notable treasures, such as like a really rare item, you get XP for that. So, yeah. And, I kept the limitation because it's like you get... I don't want the leveling to be too fast, right? Ideally you would do, a few of these per session. I think checking all of these per session would be a lot to begin with. All right. That aside, there's a lot more to go over in that section than I always think. We have various character actions. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but you got your basic stuff. It's a little strangely organized in here. I'm still figuring that out, but these actions are available. I'm just gonna scroll through them for you to sort of pause and look at them if you're interested. But these are actions available to every character. They're similar to skills in D&D 5e, and each action is it's sort of it. You don't really need to know it as a player, right? But they are written here. They're more of a guideline of how the DM should approach each type of action that could come into play. So like if someone investigates, they say like, hey, I want to look around this room and see if I can find anything important. They didn't say investigate, but you know as the GM, oh, they're rolling for investigate, right? And so here's a little table to help you sort of like navigate how to describe a failure, how to describe a succeed with consequences or just a success, right? So yeah, so that's really what that's for. It's more of a guideline, more than anything else, for different actions the characters might play. But it's also, if the player wants to come through here and be like, okay, here's all the actions I can take. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to write it on the character sheet. I feel like it would just take up so much space to write all that down. And I don't have like proficiencies and that and stuff like that. Your proficiencies more common, like you can get skills that make you proficient in different special types of actions and stuff like that. But that's it. Oops, I deleted that. Oh well. I don't think I'll need to go over that too much. And then I basically described this already, but the world is inherently dangerous, and within the world there are places of safety in which you can heal restfully without worry, and outside of those safety places, of those safe places, danger is lurking, right? And when danger is declared by the GM, you enter combat. Or I say combat, you enter. Danger is just declared, right? So it's not really you enter combat, but you time slows down and we really pay attention to the details of the situation. But generally in other systems it's called you enter combat, you begin combat, right? There's no rolling for initiative. It's just whoever says the first thing that they do, that's where initiative starts, and you literally just go clockwise or counterclockwise around the table, whatever you choose, and you do that, and the GM can interrupt at after every character's actions to take their actions, right? They can or can't, they don't have to. Yeah, and then some more details about safe places and resting in safe places. The next big thing to go over is the roles within the game. So I wanted this to be a classless system at first, but I realized, especially after making multiple characters with people, not having any direction is just, it kind of makes you just more confused. You don't really know what to do with it. So roles are sort of like within the game, you have a kind of role that you can play. And if you play with that role, it gives you certain bonuses as you level up, right? So if you choose the assailant role, you're going to be, the DPS, you're going to be the damage guy. Because at level 0, literally the first session you play as this character, you're going to have +1 to all damage. So you're going to be like, oh, hell yeah, dude, I'm the guy that does the damage. Like, I'm always taking stuff out, right? And, as that increases, and now this stuff is always, it's not going to stay like this. It might stay like this, but I'm still working out on the balance and stuff on this stuff. But, at level 4, now you get +1 damage, and on all damage die, I can roll twice and take the higher roll. So I have advantage on damage dice. And then if I get to level 8, 9th level is the last level, by the way. I can now roll 2 damage die instead of 1. So now I get it's insane. Like you get to roll, instead of 1d6 damage, you roll 2d6 damage. Right? And you get to roll those twice because you get to take the higher roll, right? So your odds of dealing a lot of damage as the assailant with the powerhouse ability, it's going to be, that is your role. Your role, exactly like what you're trying to do. Well, when you're in the game, you're going to be the damage guy. or you're going to be the talker, the wordsmith, the orator, the guy that talks, the smooth talker. You're going to be the mage. You're going to be the guy with all the magic and potentially all the cool magical answers, right? If you're the guardian, you're going to be the guy that's helping, or girl. I need to stop saying that. And see, if you're the guardian, you're going to be the one who's helping people, right? Now, I'm really struggling with how to make this one fit well. But you're going to be the one that's helping people, that's going to boost the morale of everyone else. You're going to give people bonuses. You're going to maybe get bonuses to health and stuff like that. I'm not fully sure, but you're going to be the one. You're going to be the support guy. You're going to be the one who is helping and guarding the group, right? And if you choose the rogue, you're going to be the sneaky guy. Yeah. So this, it's not always important, but when you can solve the problem with just the sneaky guy sneaking around, it might be dangerous, it might be risky, but it could also be the quickest and easiest way to solve a problem, to just sneak around it and get the thing you need, right? So everyone has a role, but it doesn't necessarily have to define you. But if you lean into those roles, you're going to very heavily succeed in those things, right? And within each role, I have archetypes that sort of fit into that. And these are literally just suggestions. You don't have to take any of this stuff exactly as it says. These are just suggestions of how to fulfill this sort of archetype if you wanted, but you could expand however you want. So like, say you want to be the damage guy, but you want to be a mage, right? So choose the assailant role and then follow the wizard archetype. Or don't follow the archetype at all and choose whatever spells, magic stuff, skills, everything, anything you want, and just sort of, have that idea in your head. So this is literally just to give you direction. And the roles are to sort of help guide and tell you what you're doing with it, like where you fit within the group, right? Because sometimes that's confusing, Sometimes you don't know. Okay, so that's a big one. Skills and specials. So, as we saw on the character sheet, I guess I'll pull that up again. So we'll bring this up again. You can see you get your specials and skills, and right now they're limited to 6 each. And I think that's fair. Another core thing I wanted to have about this game is that it's pretty simple. It's not very complex. That's one thing I don't like about D&D. It's a little too granular for me. I'd rather it just be a little bit more to the point. There's so many aspects of things you have to think about, especially as a spellcaster, I think, in D&D. I mean, there's 2 different types of spellcasters, and each spellcaster has their own way of doing things sometimes, And this, like, everything works the same way for everybody, just your specific skills work differently. No matter if you're a mage or a fighter type guy, right? Yeah, so this is an old page. I'm going to be reskinning all of this stuff, redoing everything to fit the new ideas that I have. But you can see these are, there's a whole host of different skills that you can choose from. We'll probably have a few more than this. But, yeah, so like if you chose tough, you would get +1 on your strength actions. You could choose nimble, you get +1 on your agility actions. And these skills you can level up, right? So I've changed it from, so like here I had 3 skills and you get a +3 max, right? You could only get to +3 body, +3 mind, +3 magic. Now there's 5 stats and you can get them up to a +5. And now the skills don't go up to +5, they'll go up to level 3. A skill will only go up to level 3. And I'm thinking not all skills, but I'm thinking some skills will have branching levels, right? So one example is, so I'm going to have a sword skill, right? Like sword training or something like that, something to that effect. And when you have sword training, you can level it up to get +1 on attacks with swords. You could level it up to level 2 and get bleed 1, or maybe one other thing. That's just the basic concept I have right now. And you could level those up individually, or you could go all in on the plus attack roll. So you could go, so at level 1 sword training, you would have +1 on sword attacks or rolls using the sword. Level 2, you would have +2 and then +3, right? Or you could go +1 and then at level 2 you could say I get bleed 1, and then level 3 you say I get bleed 2, right? And bleed would just be extra damage per round, right? So if you cause an opponent to bleed and you have bleed 1, that opponent bleeds 1 HP per round. If you have bleed 2, they bleed 2 HP per round, right? And those are going to be, they'll be worth different amount of skill points probably, right? So you get 3 skill points per level, and say it takes 3 skill points to get bleed 2. Bleed 2 is huge, you know? Like, yeah, you have to land your hit, but when you land that hit, 2 damage is a lot in this system, you know? 2 damage kills, like you hit a goblin for 1 damage, right? That's low. Like that might not even happen really. But theoretically, let's say you hit a goblin for 1 damage, you have bleed 2, next round, no one has to target it, it bleeds out, right? Because a goblin has 3 health, right? So bleed 2 is pretty strong. But yeah, that's how I plan on the skill system working. You get a max level of any skill or special, can get up to level 3, and some will have various different bonus level effects, right? Depending on which direction you want to go in. And the same goes for magic skills and magic specials, right? So here's all the magic stuff. These are the basic magic types. Yeah, so it's pretty sweet. This stuff is like super detailed, so I don't want to get super into it. But yeah, these are magic specials. Specials are kind of more like spells of sorts, right? Special types of spells. And then there's specials for non-spellcasters, right? So you can get multi-strike, which is kind of like extra attack. Yeah, so you see there's a lot of different options, and I'm going to be changing a lot of that stuff there, but that's what I had for the campaign that I ran. And that's generally all we need to go over. There's backgrounds here. This also helps define your character. You're probably going to get... like all this stuff is subject to change. You're probably taking the proficiency out. I don't really like that. It feels too strong to me for just your background. But this will give you weapon and equipment choices. Weapon, equipment, and treasure choices. So your starting treasure, which helps you barter and trade and stuff like that. And then I'm going to have principles laid out. I think I'm going to have principles, goals, and stuff like that not really tied to your background. It's going to just be like a chart you can choose from. And then these are not necessary, but I think they'll help for like role playing or help describing your character. Have some quirks and descriptors to help sort of round out your character. Yeah, so that's sort of the character creation process. And species doesn't, it's not a huge difference between these. You can choose to have optional species skills, but they take up a skill slot, right? So you have to choose, do I want my special species skill or not? Otherwise, your character is more of just like a skin, right? There's not a huge discrepancy based on the species you choose. But I think it makes sense to have species sort of have their own kind of role. Like, what's a dragonborn without the fire breath, or without their breath weapon, right? Without that ability, at least. I mean, not all of them are going to take that. Yeah, and then I plan on having game master tools. There's going to be a lot of tables in here that help with prep or in the moment games. And then like a section on game mastering. These are different actions the game master might take. These are super rough in their infancy. I haven't really thought about this at all in the 3 years that I've been working on this. Because that wasn't really important to me, because I wanted just something that I could use, and I would prep and use my way of doing things, but I want to put this out for other people. So I hope you enjoyed looking into Brave or Save, into my TTRPG, into the mind of Foul Knave. But yeah, I plan on sort of finishing this as like a rough draft, and I'll probably put this up. I'll probably share this page for free somewhere on the web for people to access and use. And eventually I want to sort of put together a PDF. I do graphic design and stuff like that, so I'm very capable of doing that, but I might get some artists and stuff to help me get some cool, unique imagery to put in that, and I'll do the layout myself. But yeah, I'll probably just have it as a free to use kind of thing, and just this Notion sort of set up for a while until I'm able to sort of finish that up. And that's the plan. Just let me know what you think about it, and maybe if you have ideas of your own or things that maybe could be changed, it seem weird, you have questions about it, go ahead and ask me, DM me, whatever you want to do. I definitely want to hear your thoughts and opinions. I do plan on doing updates on this, maybe focusing in on one thing and sort of externalizing my thoughts in a video, and maybe get more people interested and hyped about this, because I mean, this is my baby, this is the thing I've been working on for 3 years off and on. So, and it's sort of coming to a close here a little bit. So, yeah, without further ado, double salute. Foul Knave out.